I have great faith in fools. Self-confidence, my friends, we'll call it. Greetings, Poe fans. We are here for a very special edition, the Poetastic 2, Carmen and
Jeanie Smith.
And we are going to bring you this special edition called The One with All the Poes. And this is about my trip to the International Poe Festival. It takes place in Baltimore, Maryland, right around the time of Poe's death date. It was a weekend early this year. His death date is October 7th. And this is the 4th annual. I have attended every year. Last year it was virtual. However, I did get to attend virtually. And so It was still cool. Yes. And so every October, the first weekend or second weekend, you're going to find me in Baltimore. And next year, we're going to make sure that Jeanie is with me.
Yes. Unfortunately, I could not make it. I've always had prior engagements during those weekends. But next year, I've got it on my list of things to do.
Yes, things to Poe.
Things to Poe.
And so what's really, really cool is that Poe Baltimore brings in lots of different entertainment for this festival, as well as booths, vendor booths that have all kinds of Poe memorabilia. And of course, I always buy things. This particular year, I bought a ton of books, more than I usually have in the past. And so it's pretty...
There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with the books.
No. And I was going to say, we'll both be reading these for research.
Yes.
And so some of the things that they do, they also have tours that take you around Baltimore where you can see the places where the building that was the hospital where Poe died, as well as the place that he was found in Fells Point. And the cool thing is that the festival takes place right at his house where he lived for a short time.
That's not creepy at all.
Oh, no. And the house is tiny and very, very cool. And the top floor, you just kind of have to stick your head up to see everything. But they've got
peekaboo,
some...
Poe, are you here?
Yes, Peek-a-Poe.
Peek-a-Poe.
And so it's really interesting. Mm-hmm. The first year that we went, they had someone doing a recitation of the Telltale Heart, and he was in character. Ooh. It was amazing.
I'm surprised they didn't have somebody underneath one of the floorboards with a remote control heart going thudum, thudum.
Oh, that would be very cool too.
That would be.
But a lot of the really cool thing too, they have an MC. His name is Tim Beasley, and I was able to talk with him this time. He actually does lots of different characters, but Poe is definitely one of them, and he emceed the ceremonies. Always does a great job. And then also Robert Frank, they have Edgar Allan Poe, and he does some recitations as well. And both of them are very entertaining and do a fantastic job. They have a festival schedule, and it has all kinds of events for the Saturday and Sunday that take place. And some of the things that we got to see while we were there was the Half-Light Theater did a production of Poetry in the Parlor, and they include several different stories and poems that Poe wrote in their own way. One of the ladies in the performance sang Annabelle Lee, and it was mesmerizing. It was amazing. I know that's mine and Jeannie's one of our top favorites.
Yeah, and it's so amazing. It's just like when I always use lyrics as an example of poetry for the kids, that they don't understand that every time they listen to a song, or even if they say it without the music, they're reciting poetry.
Yeah, they don't get that unless you explain that to them.
Exactly, because you can take poetry and put it to music, and it's the exact same thing as taking songs and breaking it down into poetry.
Exactly. I used to do a lesson with my high school kids where it was like, can you have poetry without the music, or music without the poetry? And they found that fascinating, because I would bring in lots of different genres, and it kind of blew their mind, and it actually got them to like poetry.
Yeah, and it's really amazing that sometimes you can just listen to the instruments playing a song, and your mind will fill in the words because you'll hear the words with the music.
Absolutely.
And that's even before you actually put lyrics to it. That's why so many songwriters, they usually write the music first. And then it's like later the lyrics come along because the music is playing the lyrics with it.
Yes.
You're hearing it in your mind. Unless you're just, hearing voices, which sometimes I think I am.
Yes,
But
and that's okay.
That's okay.
That makes it more interesting.
Exactly. That makes life most interesting.
Another group that we got to see, it's a duo, and they are the Cold Hearts, and that's Coldharts. And this was the second time that, of course, my husband went with me. Jeff and I had seen them before when we went to Poe's birthday bash in 2019 in Richmond, Virginia. And they have a really cool musical that they do. It's called Edgar Allan and Eddie Poe. So we had seen Eddie Poe, the second part, when we were in Virginia. And this time we got to see the first part, Edgar Allan. And they always perform well and do an amazing job. Lots of energy and very engaged for the audience. Just
Very
I
cool.
love them. They're really cool.
Reminds me of the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde of Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's very cool.
And we were able to talk to Katie Hartman, who is one of the Cold Hearts, and we're going to try to set up an interview with her at some point, maybe even do a live interview with her
That would be cool.
and stream it. Some other things that we got to see was also there is a band called the Embalmers, and they're actually from Richmond, Virginia, and all of their music it's basically surfing type music, but they take all kinds of different songs and make them surfing in that genre. And one of the ones that they did, which we were trying to figure out, the Rawhide theme.
Poor Beach Boys are probably going, what in the world are you doing? Rawhide. Dun, 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 dun.
Yes, but
Hang
was
10, dudes.
It was really cool. And the cool thing is they wear these black and gold vests and fezzes. They had a go-go girl dancing, and I got a really cool picture of the Poe MC dancing with the go-go girl while they were performing. So that'll go up on the website later on.
And fortunately, now you have the theme of Clint Eastwood in my head surfing on a saddle-shaped surfboard, singing Rawhide.
That
with
is
his
amazing. That is absolutely amazing.
I'm like, can we? In black and white, too.
It would have to be.
Can you imagine Clint Eastwood on one board, surfing, and then Edgar Allan Poe on the other board surfing beside him to surf music? That's just a little demented, but I like it.
I like it too. I love that visual.
Yeah. I can see Clint Eastwood doing it now at 90-some years old.
Oh, I think he would.
I think we should write a letter to Clint Eastwood and say, hey, you need to do Rawhide surf music.
I think we should, and get the Embalmers
Get the Embalmers in on it.
I think they would probably go for that as well.
Yes, they would. Clint Eastwood probably would, too. He's just that kind of guy.
I think so. Mm-hmm. Another really neat thing that they also do is the Black Cat Ball, and that is where they have the announcement of the Saturday Visitor Awards, and something that is really neat that they started during the second annual International Poe Fest was they brought back the Saturday Visitor Awards. And originally, Poe had submitted his story, MS Found in a Bottle, to the Baltimore Saturday Visitor writing contest, and the judges were unanimous when they actually voted on the story to win. And Poe won a $50 prize.
Nice.
I don't know how much that would be today, but
about $500.
Okay, that's not bad. Not bad. And it was published in their edition on October 19th, 1833 in the Saturday Visitor. And so the Poe Baltimore has kept that alive and brought that back, like I said, during the second edition of the Poe Fest. And it's really incredible to see some of the nominees that are in they have their own booths. Some of them come and have booths and share some of the work that they're doing, as well as the Poe Fest puts some of the more engaging performances on the website from years past of who the nominees were. I was fortunate enough that I was nominated the first year for my painting, There's No Place Like Poe. And then also the second year, I was nominated for The Raven's Mourning. I did not win. However, I was extremely honored to be nominated and just felt, just awesome.
That would be definitely awesome. I may actually try to enter something next year for myself.
You should.
Who knows? I think it's just very interesting that there's an actual international festival for just one guy.
Yes.
I mean, I'm used to going to these festivals that for like just a time period of like the Renaissance, or you got Mardi Gras, you've got certain people have smaller levels.
Right.
But nothing as large as international festival, because most people don't understand that, yes, Edgar Allan Poe is international.
Absolutely. And it is incredible that just one festival for one guy and the impact that he has on everyone. Yeah. And speaking of impact, one of the neat things, I was able to meet some of the nominees for the Saturday Visitor Awards. One of the nominees that I met, her name is April White, and she submitted a book called Death's Door. The cover is really cool. It has this lady and this raven with this old clock and the moon, and it's just the cover is very ominous. And the book is basically about Poe's last 5 days of his life. And so I have not been able to read it yet, neither has Jeanie. She hasn't stolen it from me.
No.
Not yet.
She keeps eyeballing me every time I look and read.
Yeah, she keeps grabbing for it. And April was wonderful to speak with, and I did not have a chance to go back and interview her while I was there. But the cool thing is she did win as one of the Saturday Visitor Award winners. So congratulations to her.
Very much so.
Another nominee that I was able to meet and interview, and we're going to share the interview here in just a moment. A young lady named Rosemary Priven wrote the story Poe's Raven. And it basically, on the back of the cover, it says, a girl, a raven, an old enemy, and a poem.
Nice. Very short, sweet, and to the point.
Yes, and I have begun reading it. I have not finished it yet, but her character's name, her main character, her name is Riley. She has a cat named Millis, and the family has moved to Baltimore. I'm not going to tell you whether or not she's happy or not, but there's an adventure about to happen, and I'm going to leave you with that suspense before we introduce the interview. Yes. Yeah. And so, but Rosemary was a joy to speak with, so excited, and very talented writer.
And from what you told me, she's only 10 years old.
Yes.
So someone who's being impacted that young, I mean, she fits with us being impacted as young as we were for Edgar Allan Poe.
Absolutely.
And some of what I've gotten, I haven't had a chance to read that book either. She's been keeping the books away from me, very much so, eyeballing me. But anyway, it fits a lot with some of the modern type genres that we can think of. One especially that this hit upon was the Inside Out movie of Disney, that it talks about a girl who has to move because of her parents, and she's this age, and she doesn't like it. She doesn't, and she's having to fight her own emotions, in which that's one of the things we love to talk about with Poe, and his ties into his poetry, into his books, into everything has to do with a lot of what's happening in his real life.
Yes, absolutely.
So she, I think, is channeling definitely Poe through this, because she's writing about something that probably is impacting her life at the time.
Exactly. And so we're going to go ahead and include her interview, and she also had these really adorable bookmarks, and she did the artwork.
Nice.
And one other thing to add that I almost forgot about, I was able to talk to her father, and he told me that she wrote this, and to surprise her, they had it published.
Nice.
Then they found that this contest was going on and was like, we're going to actually do this in secret and not tell her. And then, lo and behold, she's a nominee. And so they were able to come to the festival. So I just think it is just amazingly awesome for this young lady. So
yeah, it gives her a little bit, like you said, with the quote from the very beginning, the self-confidence that she might need to continue on in her pursuits
yes,
as she gets older. So
I agree. I'm hoping she'll keep writing, and I'd love to hear some stories about her cat.
Yeah, me too. Because being a cat person like we are, then that is always something that interests us. Poe, cats,
ravens,
ravens, cats, birds, kind of.
All the animals, yes.
Yeah, we're weird. What can we say?
Yes. Oh, yeah. But all right. So here is the interview with Rosemary Priven.
I am here at the International Edgar Allan Poe Festival for the 4th annual one in Baltimore, Maryland. And I am here speaking with Rosemary Priven, one of the Saturday Visitor nominees. And she has written a book, and the book is called Poe's Raven. And Rosemary, what was it that introduced you to Edgar Allan Poe?
Well, I was reading a book one day called The Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place, and it mentioned the raven, and my mom read it to me and my sister, so I got interested in Edgar Allan Poe that way, although it wasn't until recently that I read any of his other stories.
That's awesome. So have you read The Raven now?
Yes, definitely.
It's one of my favorites, absolutely all-time favorites. As you can see, I've got on my raven dress today. All right, and so is the Raven your favorite, or do you have another favorite?
The Raven is definitely my favorite poem. I haven't settled on a favorite story yet, though.
Okay, which ones have you read?
I've read a bunch of them. I've read The Fall of the House of Usher, The Telltale Heart, The Gold Bug, The Cask of Amontillado. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
That's okay.
There's this book of a large collection of his stories, and I've almost finished reading it. I actually am on the last one, so I can't really name all of the titles.
There are a ton, and some of the ones you named are some of my favorites. I love The Cask of Amontillado. It is a really good one. All right, so what was your inspiration for writing your book?
It was The Raven, actually.
And so I think when I talked to you earlier, you said it took you a couple months to write it?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your book.
Well, what I've been telling everyone is that a girl moves into Edgar Allan Poe's old house, and weird stuff starts happening. And if I told you anything else, the book is so short that it might spoil everything.
All right, yeah, we don't want to put spoilers, so people will go out and find your book. Do you have your book on a website where people can go and purchase it?
Yes, littlebookdragon.com/PoeFest.
All right, that is awesome. And so I'm going to help promote your book on our website and my podcast, as I call it. And so I want our listeners to be able to have access to that. So we'll definitely put that on there. Anything else you want to add?
I'm 10.
That is awesome. And Rosemary, we have something in common. I have been writing stories and poems since I was probably about your age or a little bit earlier. My first one I wrote was in the 4th grade, so I was about 9. So I wish the best of luck to you with everything, and I know you're going to go on and probably write tons of more things.
Yeah, I'd like that.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Welcome back, Poe fans, from our wonderful interview with Miss Rosemary Priven, our 10-year-old prodigy for a future Poe person. She is adorable, and we thank Carmen for doing the interview for us. And later on, we will hear from another person that she interviewed while at the Poe Festival. But first, Carmen is going to regale us with more of her time in Baltimore, and we are going to find out even more about Mr. Edgar Allan Poe. Back to you, Carmen.
Thank you, Jeanie. So one of the things we did before heading to the Poe Fest, which is the highlight of our trip when we go, was we went to the old hospital where Poe actually died. That's the Washington College Hospital. However, it's apartments now, and so they have a giant sign that says no trespassing.
Of course.
Exactly. But the cool thing is there is a nice placard in the front that you can have your picture made by, and so I did that. They're not really sure. I did a little research. They're not really sure like what room he actually died in, but it's very, very neat that the building still exists and it's there.
Well, also in that area, this was taking place right before the, pre-Civil War issue. And then you had the Civil War, and all that was major battles in the vicinity.
Very true.
So it's amazing that it was still even a structure after everything. But according to the pictures and what I've seen, that nice little historical placard is a great thing to have because they recognize that Poe is an important part of the history of America and literature.
Absolutely. And Baltimore definitely embraces him.
Yes. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens, come on.
I know. It's very cool. So another place we went to right after we left the hospital was the Enoch Pratt Free Library. And the reason we went there is they actually have a Poe room on the second floor. And from what I've read, there's a book called PoeLand. The last name of the author is Ocker, and it's really cool to look at some of the things. He has a chapter about each of the Poe places and things that he's done. And so we'll list that on our website as well. It's a great find for looking at all the different Poe locations. But he had mentioned this in there. And so Jeff went and parked the car while I went in. And so I asked a lady, where is the Poe room? And she goes, oh, it's up on the second floor. She says, I'm not sure if it's open. She says, but, just go check and see. And there's a lot of other really neat things, upstairs and even downstairs as well. The library is absolutely gorgeous.
I love libraries.
I do too. I can just stay in there all day.
Yes, I walk in and I'm like, I don't think I ever want to go out because just the smell of the books and
Yes.
the air is like, it's just like having fall of the year all year long.
I agree totally. And so I went up the stairs and went up into the second floor and just was like, okay, let me just kind of start walking around. And so I turned to the left and just very quickly to the right was the Poe room. It has Edgar Allan Poe room listed above the door. The light was out, but I turned the handle and it was open. So I went ahead and went on in. I was like overwhelmed, not knowing what to look at first. And so I went straight over they have a nice little like seating area. And above the fireplace, there is a portrait of Edgar Allan Poe.
Did the eyes follow you?
They did.
Oh, that's just even creepier.
Yes.
I love it.
Oh, yes. And so I took a picture. And so I was about to like turn, and there's a bust in there as well of Poe. And so I was about to go take a picture of that when the security guard came in and said, ma'am, you're not supposed to be in here. It's closed.
Dun, dun. Bad girl.
I know. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, the door was open. I saw the light out, but I thought, well, the door is open. So I went on in and I apologized. And I said, is it possible I could just take one more picture and I'll leave with you right now? And he said, I can't give you that permission. And this was the funny thing that he said, only celebrities are allowed.
Wow. Celebrities.
Yes. Jeff, when I told him this story after I went back downstairs, laughed and he said, well, you should have said you were a celebrity. You're doing your podcast. You're an international podcast. I said, no. I said I wasn't going to do that.
No, that's just weird.
So what was the funny thing is once we got to the festival and we're walking through all the vendor booths, the special collections department has a booth at the Poe Fest. And so I was able to talk to a lady and gentleman that were there for representing. And she laughed when I told her about the celebrity comment. And she said, the reason it's closed is because we are the ones that run the room. I said, I know. I said, and I felt really bad. But, so I got kicked out of the Poe room.
Oh, well. That just happens sometimes.
It makes for a great story.
It does. It's like Poe was watching. He's like, ooh, I seen what you did there.
Yep. Exactly.
But, hey, it's one of those cool stories. I mean, you weren't really doing anything wrong.
No. Oh, no. I didn't touch anything.
Yeah, there wasn't anything posted that said do not enter or anything. Not. The door was unlocked, and you don't know until after the fact. And even the security guard was like, oh, only celebrities. And you're like, I want to know who these celebrities are.
I know.
But the special collections people are like, celebrities? No, we're here. I'm like, well.
Yes. And so she was like, I think what he was trying to say is that you have to make an appointment.
Yes.
And so she invited me to come back and make an appointment and see all the Poe things, and they can bring some things out from his time. I know that they have like locks of his hair, as well as I think a few pieces of his original coffin as well. So
yeah, and I know in the special collections rooms they have to have it certainly monitored with temperature, and you can't put your hands on certain things because the oil from your skin can actually damage
absolutely
some of the things. So I can understand why they wouldn't want people there without having made appointments and being in very restrictive area. It's the same like if you go to the Library of Congress, you want to see anything for like the documents of the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, which I don't even think you can do that anymore without it being
think
under
you're right. Yeah.
glass. But used to, you could go to the special collections area and see those things, but they'd have to be in a controlled environment.
Yes.
So that was cool, though. You didn't, you just got to see a cool portrait and all that. But you got to meet the people behind the special collections and got invited to come back. So
exactly. And so just, looking at kind of the information that they gave, they also have like some letters, some first editions, some of Poe's personal items, including handwritten poems and letters like basically about his death.
Yes. That would be really interesting because letters, of course, they have to keep under a very temperature controlled environment.
Absolutely. And the cool thing is I know in Philadelphia where the Raven, we've talked about this before, you can also make a visit, make an appointment for a visit there as well, which I'm hoping we can do at some point for both of these places.
Oh, and they have over 15,000 rare books of a wide range of subjects. That's very nice, too.
Yeah, you would love this library. It's amazing.
I would probably, they would probably have to kick me out, too, because I would probably fall asleep in there going, yes, I love
you
the
can't,
books.
Yeah, you can't stay overnight.
That's just sad.
Yeah, it'd kind of be like maybe we could have an adventure like the movie Night at the Museum.
Oh, yes.
Night at the library.
Oh, that could be our future jobs as night watchmen for like the libraries and stuff in Edgar Allan Poe. Although we probably would stay on duty all the time because we'd be like, I'm not working, I'm reading, leave me alone.
Oh, gosh, yes. Oh, I know. All right, so that was kind of some of the fun Poe things. And then on Sunday, before we had to leave for the airport, we also swung by Westminster Hall and Graveyard. That's where Poe is buried. Mm-hmm. And so I always go visit his grave when we are in Baltimore. And it's a very neat cemetery. You definitely, if you're in Baltimore, you have to make a trip.
There's just something about the old, well, I say old, but the original cemeteries of those time periods, because they definitely make more of a statement, because some of them, they don't even have the actual birth dates or death dates. They just have the person's names.
Yes.
And so you find out some really interesting information from some of those.
I totally agree. It's neat to read some of the gravestones and things.
Yes, because some of them I'm like, ooh, it took a lot of time to chisel that out, but that's cool.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And I hate that some of the gravestones, you can't see some of the information anymore because of the wear and tear over the weather and things like that.
Yes, there's been a lot because between flooding and the natural erosion effect, because some of the tombstones weren't made with the right type of material and
Right.
all that would be sustainable under the weather. But that's okay. I mean, we still know that they're there, and there are still some historical records for them. So that's good.
One of the, before we move to the next interview, just one other little thing about the cemetery. So you go back behind where where his original grave was, because he kind of got moved twice up, until he got up to the front.
Poor guy.
But the Poe toaster was coming there, every year. And so I was kind of looking around, like, where would the Poe toaster come in? Because, he has to break in, basically.
Oh, yes.
And so I found a little area where I'm like, maybe this is how he gets in. I was like, I would love to become the Poe toaster. I think it would be amazing.
That would be cool. Oh, things to look forward to in the future.
That's right. Plans. Just don't.
Yeah, don't let them know.
Yeah, exactly.
Although we're announcing it to everybody, but you heard nothing.
Yes. All right. So our next interview that I was able to do was with Sara Crocoll Smith, and she has edited a book called Love Letters to Poe, Volume 1, A Toast to Edgar Allan Poe. And it is, again, I have not been able to start reading this yet. It's a collection of short stories. It's basically a Gothic anthology. It has 12 themed issues that contain 48 short Gothic stories, 7 Gothic poems, and the number of writers are around 55 that contributed to this edition. I know she's also trying to work on the second edition as well, and she also writes herself. She does not have any stories in here, but she was amazing to speak with. And what's really cool is when we walked up to her booth, I was like, Love Letters to Poe, where have I heard this? I was like, I follow you on Twitter. And she was like, oh, that's so cool. So she's actually now following me for my writing site, The Quotable Raven. So I thought that was really cool. And so I sat down and interviewed her for a few moments. And 2 of her authors were nominated also for Saturday Visitor Awards. The stories were The Heart of Alderman Kane by Eleanor, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing this correctly, Stein, and Midnight Rider by Melanie Cossey. And so I think that's amazing that those were nominated.
Very much so. And I can't wait to hear the interview because, I mean, anyone who puts this much dedication into, especially editing, that much work.
Yes.
Us both having backgrounds of being editors ourselves and having to read so many essays, especially by teenagers, I can only imagine the dedication she has to doing this for a living.
Absolutely. She is very passionate about her work and just lovely to speak with. So,
great. Can't wait.
Here is the interview.
Awesome.
I am here at the International Edgar Allan Poe Fest, and it is the 4th annual one. And I am here with one of the Saturday Visitor Award nominees, Sara Crocoll Smith. And Sara, what I'm very interested in is how did you get introduced and interested in Edgar Allan Poe?
Thanks, Carmen. Well, I think like most people, we were introduced to Edgar Allan Poe in like middle school.
Yes.
And I was really drawn to the Masque of the Red Death story.
Love that one.
I think the colors, and I even remember, I don't think I have told anyone this, but I had to do like a school project for it, and I baked a cake, each layered the different colors of the room.
That is awesome.
And that really stands out. Yeah.
I have. I'm pulling this out of my purse. This is actually a painting that I did, and I made masks, and you can see all the colors.
Oh, wow.
So I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean the colors for a written story. It's such a visual.
The imagery. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes,
I agree.
So I would say that really drew me in.
Yeah. So is that definitely your favorite?
Yeah, that's definitely my favorite.
Okay, and I've taught that one, and the kids absolutely love it.
Really?
Yes, they do.
That's awesome.
They do. All right, so let's talk about your book. Tell us a little bit about your book, Love Letters to Poe, Volume 1, and just kind of also share with us what was your inspiration for writing the book.
Sure, yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, is probably a bit of my own procrastination on my writing. And I just, living near Baltimore, really wanted to do something deeper with Edgar Allan Poe. And Love Letters to Poe is a love letter to him, but I think as I've been going through this, it's also sort of a love letter to each other in this community. It's actually a really strong Gothic community around Poe. Awesome. But yes, the book is the first volume. It's an anthology, so it's a collection of 55 short stories and poems, Gothic horror, heavily inspired by Edgar Allan Poe. All different authors from all over the world.
That is amazing.
Yeah, England, Canada, Greece, everywhere.
Okay.
So I think, some of it was born out of I was submitting my own short stories to magazines.
Okay.
And that's a really hard grind. I think a lot of writers know.
Yes, I have tried that myself and not been as successful as I'd like to be.
Yeah,
So.
it's really difficult. And now being on the other side of it as running a magazine and a publisher is really eye-opening, the level of work on this side of it too.
Okay.
But I think the experience of I got 400 submissions. Reading all of those short stories and poems, I feel like made me a better writer and editor.
Okay.
And it was really a joy to work with each writer
Okay.
on, making them feel special and highlighting their story. So I'm happy to pull it all together in the first anthology for Love Letters to Poe.
That is awesome, and I actually purchased the book, and I am very excited to go home and start reading it. I have like a collection of 3 or 4, sometimes 10 books on my bedstand, and I can't get through them all. All right, so I think everybody's going to be very interested in looking this up, and we want to know, where can we find your work?
Sure, yes. You can find me at www.loveletterstopoe.com.
Okay.
And we're also on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Love Letters to Poe. I think Twitter is Love Letters Poe because Love Letters to Poe was too long for Twitter.
Gotcha.
But yes, loveletterstopoe.com.
Okay. All right. That is amazing. Anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you so much for interviewing me, and I'm just happy to share the news.
Well, I appreciate it, and I wish you the best of luck in everything you do.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you. We all love Poe.
And we're back from one more interview at the International Poe Festival from Miss Sara Crocoll Smith. We thank her for giving us the time and attention and explaining all about the wonderful Love Letters to Poe, the volume, A Toast to Edgar Allan Poe, Volume 1. And like she said, you can follow her on Twitter, on Facebook, on www.loveletterstopoe.com.
And Instagram. All those wonderful social media platforms that I don't do anything with anymore, but no one tell them that. Okay.
Yes. Anyway, so now back to Carmen for more updates and information that happened at the festival.
Yes, so when we went to the Black Cat Ball, they also had, this was at an old house, the Carroll Mansion in Baltimore, very neat place, and the event center, the 1840s, like Hollywood Gothic Plaza is what they called it for the event. They also had an exhibit called Poe, Death, Film, and Fashion, and so that was upstairs.
That's a very nice saying of like, oh, look, Poe, Gothic, dark, death. It all works together.
It does.
And fashion.
Yes. And so we got to go upstairs to see this exhibit, and it was really, really cool because it had several TV shows and movies and some of the costumes and memorabilia from them. And so it was really, really neat. And so some of the things that I really enjoyed, if you haven't seen the show Altered Carbon, there is a Poe character in there. He's a bartender, and there's he runs the hotel.
Well, that's not a psycho-inspired death warrant or anything right there.
Exactly. And so it was really cool. And so what they had from Altered Carbon was the little things that, if you know anything about the show, you can basically change your body, like have like your brain almost downloaded and in like added into a body. I'm not explaining this very well. I have watched the show, and
It's kind of like a Total Recall, Johnny Mnemonic.
a little
kind of
bit, yeah,
mix.
yeah, and just it was really, really good, very well
Cool.
done. They only had 2 seasons, which I was disappointed,
Of course.
but they had like that. They had one of the room keys from the hotel, and they had some costumes that the Poe character wore. So
Very
that was
cool.
really neat. They also had some old movie posters from some of the Vincent Price movies, a Ray Milland movie,
Love
and
me some
so
Vincent Price.
yes. And so that was really neat to see. And then they had some costumes from an up-and-coming movie coming out about Poe. And I'm not going to give anything away on that, but it was really neat. And then they also had, I don't know if anybody watched this show. I did when they advertised this. That came on Fox several years ago. I can't remember the years, but it was more along the lines of the around 2000, maybe 10-ish, 11-ish, somewhere in that time
I
frame.
can't remember yesterday.
Yeah, I don't
ask
know.
me.
You know, it's not like you can say it's the teens, the 20 teens.
Yeah, woo.
But it was called The Following, and I remember like watching another TV show at the time, and it was a commercial that came on for it, and it had all these people in these Poe masks coming into this place, and then it mentioned that there was a serial killer, and I'm like, oh my gosh. A show about Poe and serial killers. I've died and gone to heaven. So
Awesome.
yeah. So anyway, the show is actually very, very well done, and Kevin Bacon is in it. And they had one of the Poe masks on display. So that was awesome.
Very cool. Poe and Kevin Bacon. Wonder what that ties in with our Poecast.
I know.
6 Degrees of Poe. And we found he's also associated to Kevin Bacon.
Yes,
It's awesome.
it is. All the degrees, it comes back to Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, that juxtaposition of saying, oh, look, yes, modern day 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. You can go 6 degrees to Edgar Allan Poe to 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon, and they all fit together.
Exactly. And yeah, we were kind of talking about this before we decided how we were bringing this in, and we were thinking, okay, is this an oxymoron? Is it a paradox? Is it an anachronism? That's a word that's very difficult to pronounce. But
Yes.
but Jeannie's right. It is definitely a
juxtaposition.
yes.
Yeah, this is when you get to play with your English literature terms
Yes.
that you love to play with and never get a chance to say it because the kids will just look at you and go, what?
And they always yell out onomatopoeia.
Yeah. No. That's it right there.
So, but that pretty much covers everything about the 4th annual International Poe Festival.
That is so wonderful. And next year, hopefully, we will find out more and we can see a lot of people. And if Carmen and I are hopefully still around and about, we may actually be at a booth at the International Festival and doing a Poecast.
Yes, live and in person. Yes.
So you could come by and check us out and enjoy the show and possibly be interviewed while we're on air.
That's right.
And so then now this is our special edition. We had to do a special edition about the International Poe Festival, of course. So, but we will stay tuned. We are going to have our next official episode of our Poecast, which is called Poe Done It.
Yes. Dun, dun, dun.
And so to end our wonderful special edition, as we always do, here is your quote. Sleep, those little slices of death. Oh, how I loathe them. Poe out.
Poe out.